What's a best-in-class rep? Like, think about the best sales rep you've ever worked with.
To bring more value to people is constantly be thinking, don't just give people what they're asking for, but look for what's beyond that.
I giggle that you call it the Rhonda roll. My staff just calls it pain in the ass.
Welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. I'm your host, Mark McGraw.
Hey friends, welcome back to Building Your Sales Engine. This is Mark McGraw, your host. Hey, today I have Rhonda Greenstreet on our podcast together today. Rhonda has been a great friend of mine for years, wonderful human being, great strategist. I mean, she just understands how to think through problems better than just about anybody I've ever met. So great background, a very unusual background, came out of government politics and AG's office of all things. And she's going to talk with you guys about how do you bring more value as a sales rep. So she's running a team and they are putting together and have put together processes to help salespeople bring more value to the client and elevate it. And I think you're going to get a number of insights out of her thinking and about the process that she uses to ensure that the reps are constantly elevating the value that they are seen by in the eyes of their customers. So let's dive in. This is Rhonda Greenstreet in Building Your Sales Engine. So hey everybody, welcome to Building Your Sales Engine. I have my good friend and laughing partner, Rhonda Greenstreet. We have known each other for years and years and have laughed a ton and talked a ton about business and life and all things related to sales. So welcome, Rhonda. So glad you're here. Thanks for taking the time.
Oh, Mark, thanks for having me. I had a little bit of imposter syndrome going on, but I think, the depth and, and value of conversations that you and I have no doubt that this is going to be a repeat of many, many conversations we've had. So I'm super excited to be here. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah, without a doubt. And you should not have any imposter syndrome whatsoever. And I mean this from the bottom of my heart. You are one of the most insightful people that I have ever run across. Your judgment in being able to assess a situation and call it out for what it is second to no one, in my opinion.
Oh,
And
it's kind of you. Yeah, that's kind of you. That can be a blessing and a curse depending who you're dealing with. But yeah. Yeah, thank you. Clarity, right? Yeah.
yes, indeed. And well, hey, let's start here, Rhonda. You came into sales. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of a background? But you came into sales in the most unusual way. I think of anybody that I've met, you have this as the most unusual entry point from government into sales, I think, that I've ever seen. So share with everybody a little bit about your background, what you do, how you got into sales. And we're going to spend a lot of our time together today talking about diving into how do you bring more value as a salesperson? How do you elevate the conversation with people? But let's start with learning a little bit about you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, yeah, unusual. Yes, unusual. I had 16 years of public service for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. More importantly, I have 20 years of talent development background. And Mark, that's how you and I met, right? So we met through I knew nothing about. I know a boatload about leadership training, but when I came to the organization that I'm in now, I knew nothing about sales training. So you and I had this conversation. It's not what, it's who. So it's not what can I create? It's who has an expertise in this that I can talk to that can do this job, right? So the organization I'm in actually hired me as a talent development consultant and spent 6 years in that space with that organization. And I also have a strategy background. So I come at most things from what's the business outcome we're trying to achieve, and then how do we tool people up to achieve that business outcome? So actually, when you really think about it, that's really not too far from what you need to be doing as a salesperson. What's the business outcome you're trying to achieve strategically, and then how do we tool you up to do that, right? So So I was doing talent development for the organization, and then and strategy, and we were in a situation where the sales organization had some room to be bolstered, supported, some put some more rigor around the strategy. So I said I can do that. I used a couple other words, but I said, "I can do that,"
Which you
and
can be colorful, but maybe not on today's show. But
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I was having a conversation with our past CEOs, and I said, "Yeah, I would really like the opportunity to do that." So yeah, so that's and he said, "Okay, be in my office Monday morning," and we kinda went from there.
I got to ask, you work for the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, so you work for the government. It was the governor's office or one of those.
Yeah, I work for the, Office of Inspector General for 10 years, in
Perfect
policy.
transition into sales, don't you think?
Right,
Sales
policy
management.
and training. We did investigations. And so I trained investigators for a long time, and I wrote state policy. It's one of the reasons I left. And then I wound up working for the governor's office of administration, and I was the chief of human resource development, and I had 23 agencies under the governor's jurisdiction in my purview, and training and development for 70,000 state employees. So yeah, it was big.
Wow.
But you know what, Mark? One of the reasons I love where I am now is that at United Concordia is because when you have to do things that are that big, right? When you have to do things that big, the bigger the reach, the less rich it is.
Hmm.
So I really was looking.
What do you mean by that? Meaning like you don't see the impact as much?
When you have to talk to 70,000 employees, the message gets less rich. It's watered down. It's a one size fits all. Um, versus when you have a more targeted audience and smaller, the richness of the message, the conversation, the level of detail is much more. It's much more powerful. It's been
Because you
my
can
experience.
personalize it
Yeah, yeah.
to the. Yeah, it's kind of what I always thought about the difference between sales and marketing. Marketing, you're forced to communicate to a broad audience. Therefore, you have to be general. Here's the top 3 reasons why people buy. In sales, you can ask the question of the human being in front of you to find out what's important to them, and that's to me always more rich. To use your words.
Yeah, so true. So true. And that's where the power is, right? That's where the benefit is for both parties is having that conversation versus just pushing out a message. So yeah, totally agree. But yeah, that's how I got here. So I've been I tell everyone because I've been in sales now for 4 years, which doesn't sound a whole lot, but I keep telling my boss I currently have a bachelor's degree in sales and I'm working on my master's. So but so I'm vice president of strategy and operations for sales. So, which with that comes like all the talent development stuff, all the, work with our leaders and the performance management and all of the skill building for our reps. And how we support and enable them to, be best in class. I love it. So all of those skills I learned around talent development and strategy and really keeping the end in mind and what's the path to get there. I don't know, you'd have to ask the people that work with me, but I think they serve me pretty well. So yeah, I
I
think
know
they're
so many of the people work
transferable.
for you, and they think the world of
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so that's a given. So one of the things you've been working on, which I think is a topic that a lot of people are striving to, and that's how do you bring more value
Mm.
as a salesperson, as an account manager, as managing a relationship with somebody. How do you bring more value? And we were talking the other day about some of the things that you've got an initiative, a project that you're implementing right now, and maybe you start there. Talk to us a little bit about what are some of the things that you're seeing that as someone who is in sales working with a relationship and an account, how do they bring more value in terms of that? Let's work on that for a little bit.
Yeah, I think one of the things that I think anyone in sales should ask themselves is, what is best in class in my industry? And I feel like that's where I start. That's where a lot of us who are kind of working on this started in terms of, you hear a lot of our clients or our distribution channels, oh, I love so and so. They're awesome. And I'm like, great. And when I said, so what makes when I started asking questions and trying to develop really solid feedback loops, what is okay, so I said, what is it about them that you like? And you get a lot of like, oh, they're this or they're that or they're funny or the whatever. And I was like, that's not what I'm looking for. So I started asking the question, what's a best in class rep? Like, think about the best sales rep you've ever worked with. I want to know that. I know that we have some, right? I would love all of our reps to be best in class, and that's where we're after. But it really started around that. So as I started to, listen to what our customers and our distribution channels were talking about in terms of best in class, and then thinking about those behaviors and looking at what we were actually doing, we had some misses and some gaps. So we started to think about what we were hearing a lot of is what great relationship builders they are. And I said, "Okay, fantastic. So talk to me a little bit about what that means." And there's two components to that I learned. There's a social component and then there's a trust component to that relationship building. So, great happy hours. I love to golf with them. I've known them for years, that kind of thing. And that's the social
That's
component.
the
And then
social side.
yeah, and then there's this trust component. Um, Great problem solver. They get back to me within a certain amount of time. They quarterback and coordinate my requests. I don't have to go to 3 or 4 different people in your organization. So, that's the relationship piece. But, you know, we really started to hear, I was like, was that it? I was like, are they just a really great golf partner? And then Mark, you and I talked about like, oh my God, are our reps stuck in a friend zone? um, and I don't. We have best in class reps. I'm not saying our reps. I'm saying sales reps in general. Do sales reps get stuck in a friend zone? And it's kind of like you don't get to the good stuff. You just kind of go out for dinner.
Yeah, and I think one of the mistakes that people could make is that I mean, I've kind of looked at it like almost like the golden retriever salesperson.
Mm,
And that's where, you throw the stick and they say, "Hey, go get me a quote or go get me something." And we think that our job as a salesperson is to go fetch that and go get it and bring it back as fast as we can because they're going to like us more and that we're serving them in that way. Well, that may or may not be the right thing to go do, but that's one of the things that is so. And I love, by the way, the example of the friend zone. That's of course, from a relationship on the other side there, but friend zone in terms of I'm just there to be social with you and to take care of needs and requests that you have of our organization. We should be a lot more than that. We should raise that bar. Fair?
yes, yes. Absolutely. So then we started thinking about, okay, so where do you go next? And we kind of categorized it in how do you move out of that? All right, I've developed social trust. I've developed a social relationship, and now I've developed a high level of trust. How do I start now driving towards delivering value or showing value from my product or my organization? And Mark, I think back to, and I know there's a rule number for this, and I always remember the line that you have shared with us is you're always one question away from the truth.
Yeah.
So I think that I'm not a big, we talk our sales folks that are really, really good don't puke. And this is what I mean by that, right? So often inexperienced salespeople just go puke on their clients and just say, this is everything you need to know and this is why we're valuable. But to your point earlier, what I like you said is that golden retriever kind of mentality, if any sales rep just stops and says, "So tell me why you need that," right? "I wanna make sure that I'm delivering something that's really valuable to you. Tell me why you need that. Tell me why you need that now. Why now? You've never asked for, about that before, or what's caused you to ask for it now?"
Those are all good reverses from the Sandler world. I mean, they're great questions to ask as to why somebody wants something. Because sometimes when they ask for something, what they ask for isn't what they really need. Another Sandler rule, we have 4 million, right? But the problem the person brings you is never the real problem. What they're
Yeah.
asking you for, the report or whatever it is rarely. They don't want the report. They want something out of the report, and that's where you start finding that information out when you ask those additional questions.
Right, and then if I can do that as a salesperson, what I'm doing then is I'm bringing additional value. I then open up this beautiful door of not only can I help you get what you're after, but now it's kind of like playing poker, right? So when you play poker, you can't see anyone else's hand. It's hard to place a bet when you don't know what anyone else is holding. When you're just fulfilling requests, you're playing poker with blind, right? When you ask questions, that's when you can start placing better bets because you get the more data you have and more information, the better decisions that you can make.
Yeah.
So I always wanna find out, teach our reps to find out as much as possible to move them into the higher level of bringing value, and God forbid we upsell something then, right? So, you know, "Oh, right, you need this report. I just heard 3 pain points. Let me tell you I'll get you what you want, but now also let me tell you how we bring value compared to our competitor in this space that you're experiencing."
And you're asking questions like, "Have you thought about this? I noticed that this came up in the report. Have you thought about doing something along these lines?" And so by asking those additional questions, I've always found that you can kind of look smart by asking somebody a question that they've never been asked before, or getting them to uncover something that they really weren't thinking about, but it was something beyond that what they originally were asking for. That's certainly a good way to become a genius in the eyes of the other person, is through those questions.
So, Mark, is it Sandler or did I hear this somewhere else? There's a concept called a pattern interrupt. Is
Yeah,
it Sandler?
we got it from the world of psychology, but absolutely, yes.
Yeah, I think that's what you just said there in terms of asking a question people don't expect, or that is not just what every other sales rep asks or been trained to ask. You know, I often think that salespeople are true artists, and their instrument of their art is their question asking. And, the more they can hone that skill, it helps them to get to bringing that value. I got a job doing a pattern interrupt. I could see it. I could see the energy shift as soon as it happened. I mean, we got to the
Tell the
end of
story. I kind of remember you bringing this up, but share the story.
yeah, we got to the end of the interview, and the person asked me, "So, what questions do you have?" And there's the typical end of interview questions, right? "Well, when are you gonna make a decision?"
Yeah.
That kind of thing. And I said, "What concerns do you have about hiring me? Because you just described what getting to stage 2." Stage 2 was an interview with the CEO. And I said, "What concerns do you have about hiring me and getting to stage 2?" I said, "Because I don't want to leave this interview until I have resolved all of your concerns about forwarding me on to the next phase of the interview
And
process."
you were not in sales at the time.
No.
What a fine question, though. I mean, that's yeah. You knew what you were doing, even though that wasn't
I
you
just
weren't
really wanted
quote
the
unquote in
job.
sales. What a great
Like,
question.
Rhonda, we are not leaving here until you have no doubts in your mind.
Yeah, what a great question. I love it.
Well, I mean, doesn't that translate to sales though? Like, right? It
Absolutely.
translates in terms of, you know, what questions do you have about this product? What questions do you have about this service? What reservations do you have
Yeah.
about this purchase? Because let's talk about them, right?
Yeah, we want to find truth. I mean, if you think about it, I mean, to me, I mean, I want to find truth in the sales call. If we're not going to work together, you've got a reservation, you've got an issue. Let's talk about it. If we can deal with it, great. If we can't, also great. We're going to save each other a bunch of time
Yeah.
in the process. So, I mean, to me, I think that's great that you're doing that.
So, Mark, that actually is a great transition into to kind of like the continuum that we're working on in terms of, all right, we got relationship building. Now let's stay at this value place. Now, how do you become a strategic business partner? Right? So how do you get to truth and how do you plan to do business together? And that's a high functioning business relationship versus a buyer seller dance.
Mhm.
That's, that ships the mindset.
So, what are some of the things that you're doing to help people? So first, you've got to have some rapport with the person. There's no doubt about it. You just can't. As I love the way you say it, you can't get stuck in the friend zone. You've got to be more than that. Uh, Two would be, you have to now bring more value. What are some of the things that you're teaching your team on that side of things that's helping them transition?
Yeah, from to transition from a purely social and relationship building relationship into a value relationship. I mean, absolutely focusing on pain funnel, asking questions, reversing, all of those things we just talked about. I also think that it's important to so we have developed a feedback loop with many of our clients in our distribution channels. So we're constantly asking them how we can be better. And that's a great tool. If you can do that in your orgs, do it.
Kind of like a quarterly or semi-annually review with
Semi-annual.
them on the business. How are we doing? How are you doing?
Yep, absolutely. We do distribution channel advisory boards. And we have client advisory boards. So those are invaluable. I'll bunny trail for a second. If you don't do them in your sales org, we should be doing, I believe that we should be doing client-based sales. What is that client willing to pay for? Why is that distribution channel willing to advocate for you, right? So for us, creating those feedback loops helps us understand what their pain is, helps us understand where we need to focus our reps more or less. So that has become incredibly important. And one of the things we heard there that really caught my attention was so I asked, we had launched a new product and we were about 12 to 16 months into, in the product. So I would say we're still in momentum phase, right? We haven't gotten to, kind of business as usual. This product's still fairly new in the market. And I asked our counsel, I said, so why aren't you selling more of it? And the answer was, well, we forgot you had it. I'm like, oh my God. So I started thinking about, and our reps are good reps, but I think reps fall into this trap. And I would love to hear what people like when they listen to this, if what they think, right? But I think reps fall into this trap of I don't have anything new to tell them. Or if I don't have the next shiny object, right? And I'm sitting there going, we're sitting in the sea of sameness. A lot of us are selling commodity products and we've got to remind
Yeah.
people about what we have. They've got, our distribution channels and our clients have 15 to 20 competitors, vying for their business. And we were new with this product. And they're like, oh, well, we have a habit of getting it over here.
Yeah.
And
And they
we
forgot
never,
you did it.
yeah, we forgot,
Yeah.
we got to break that habit.
And the thing
So,
is I think as a rep, and this is a way to bring value. Just think about this: is that as a rep, we think that just because we told them one time that they're going to get it. And we are, and this is a straight quote from David Sandler. He said, "We are one of a million of events in your prospect's daily life." And it's so true. And so
Yeah.
just because we told them we think that they got it, they need to hear it multiple times. That's why I think that the quarterly reviews or the semi-annual reviews, however you do the quarterly reviews that you guys are doing, is so important because it gives you a chance to bring things up through the sales process to remind them of other tools and resources that you have available. That's bringing value right there.
Yep.
Just because you say it once doesn't mean that they get it.
Yep. Yeah, no, it's so true. So I bunny trailed a little bit on kind of our feedback loops, but what we're working on as a sales team, our sales leadership and our sales reps for 2025 is all around what we've entitled a either client or distribution channel engagement playbook.
Okay.
We've identified probably 10 to 15 business meetings that plays, if you will, right? That based on your market, based on your competitors, based on your pipeline, you can run these plays any way you want. But they are things like, okay, you should be doing an annual product review. You should be doing an industry trend and feedback loop meeting, asking, the client, what trends are you seeing? This is what we're seeing, sharing information.
So when you're doing that, it sounds like, Rhonda, is it if the customer is in or the prospect or customer is in this circumstance, there's a play that you can run to help them be in a better spot.
Mhm.
And it sounds like what part of what you've done is you've simplified that for the customer. Hey, do these three things in these situations, and you're going to get a better result. And that brings value. That's the play. You're going to do these three things, and that's going to increase value to the customer. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think also in terms of, markets in our industry, it's a little different because we do work through primarily distribution channels.
You're selling through a third party, so you're not always in front of the end user, which a lot of our clients are. A lot of listeners would be there too.
Yeah. So I think in terms of one of our major focuses for our sales reps are, okay, how do you get that distribution channel to advocate for you with the client? That you are bringing value and helping them grow their business. So it's a really interesting dynamic. What you just said about what are the three things in terms of bringing value to the client is where our account managers are. So after something has sold, that's what we're working with our account managers on is how do they identify what's going to bring that particular client value, and what are the plays that they have to run in order to make sure that client stays with us.
Yeah, and it's unique to that particular client. It's not a copycat across all clients. It's customized to that individual client. And you're
Yeah.
doing that by asking the questions, and I'm looking over my notes for all the things here, but you're asking the questions using things like the pain funnel. You're using playbooks. I love the fact that one of the characteristics of people that bring a ton of value to clients is they simplify things.
Mm.
They take things that are complicated and they lay them out in a way that's logical and rational so that people can digest them. We don't need more complexity. We don't need more information. We need make more sense of what we already have.
Mhm.
And to me, that's certainly a characteristic of a good rep, above and beyond being social on that side of things.
So let's pause there because one of the tricks of the trade for any sales rep is, you talk to some folks that have been selling for 20, 25 years, right? And I think a lot of folks will tell you that relationship building used to be good enough.
Mm.
I think our world has gotten pretty complicated. I think the access to information and data has increased. I think that one of the things we're really trying to skill our folks up in is how do you use real data to tell a story to bring value? And it's hard. Traditionally, I don't know what you've seen. I'd be interested in your perspective, but traditionally, sales folks come with amazing relationship building skills. That's usually sitting at their core. I haven't witnessed too many people, sales or not, that have really strong woo skills, winning others over, and really great data analytics skills, right? So those things usually don't go together. So I think one of the things we've really tried to work on is, well, this year, what we've done is we have put a consultant position in place that is meeting with our sales reps quarterly to actually go over data that we want to be sharing with either clients and or our distribution channels to help them tell the story. These are the numbers, and this is what the numbers mean to that relative person that you're going to be speaking with. So that's something new for us because
Do you know the DIKW model? Have we
no,
talked
what
about
is
that at
that?
all? This is I look, some things I've taught and coached for decades. This is not one of them. This has just hit my radar over the last 6 months. The model is called DIKW, and picture it's what it does is it describes the hierarchy of information because not all information is the same value. So the DIKW stands for data, information, knowledge, wisdom.
Mm,
And if you think about a triangle, at the base is the data. So if a rep starts to think about how do they transition out of just data, I'll give you a quick example. Let's take a second, but I'll give you a quick example. We're in the training business. As training in the training business, we can collect information about people that attend workshops over the period of a year. We can know what they attended, and we know what dates, and we know what they viewed of the content and things like that. That in a spreadsheet's data. Lowest level of information, lowest level of value. Okay. Move it up to information. This is where you can categorize things and put it into buckets. This department attended this amount. Maybe you build a graph and you show these people attended more than these people, and they got stuff like that. But that's better, right? Then you get to the knowledge level, and knowledge is about like now decision making. What can you do with this information? And that's the next level of this. So, for example, in that example I just gave, you could say uh, the Pursuit Navigator tool from Sandler is really helpful in helping reps determine what projects to go work on. Okay, and then the last piece of it's wisdom,
mm.
and the wisdom is like now. Let's say, Mr. and Mrs. Sales Manager, now that we know this about your people, here's how you would go implement that to increase close rates in your business. And that's a big shift from looking at a spreadsheet of attendance in a workshop.
Mm-hmm.
And so I haven't like been aware of this for like years and years, but this model of like, how do we constantly take data and turn it into insight? Reaction to that or just thoughts? I love that principle. I don't know why, but I just love it.
No, I've never heard DIKW. However, going back to my Pennsylvania, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania days, did you ever hear of the Valentine's Day massacre?
Yes.
When
Can't wait to hear how this turns.
people got stuck on Route 78 in Pennsylvania for like 15 hours. It was jammed up, ice storm. It was horrible. Like, they needed there was ambulances. It was just it was a flash ice storm, and it jammed 78 up for 15 hours. It was horrible. What's really interesting is they wrote a case study about it afterwards that applies those principles. So it was a new director of PennDOT had just taken over with the new administration, right? And he looked at the data. He looked at the data to see how many roads does Pennsylvania have? How much salt do we need? And when do we need to put that salt on? and how bad does the weather get in this area of the state. So he has all this data, right? Okay. And then he's got information in terms of the weather reports. So he's got
Okay.
information. And then the knowledge of, okay, now we've got to do something because there's a storm coming, right? Now I have to take some kind of action. I've got to take my data, I've got to take the information, and I have to have knowledge about now what to do, right? Because he was inexperienced, didn't know a whole lot about Pennsylvania weather in that area of the state, the data only told him so much, right? Uh, and in retrospect, there was no wisdom because in talking to the old director of PennDOT, he goes, "Oh yeah, I would have started salting those roads like, a day in advance," right? So there was no wisdom because I think there's something that's missing though. It's Is there an experience component, Mark?
You can't be a rookie and be able to connect all the dots.
I don't think so.
I
I
mean,
think it's hard.
but I think what's interesting about it is that if you strive to go up one more level with the information,
Level up.
and you try to level up. If you've got a spreadsheet, try to turn it into information. If you've got information, try to turn it into knowledge. And obviously knowledge into ultimately wisdom or insight, which is
Yeah.
actionable. But I think that's something that reps and salespeople can really strive to do to bring more value to people is constantly be thinking, don't just give people what they're asking for,
Mm-hmm.
but look for what's beyond that. You brought that up
Mm-hmm.
earlier with, Sandler tools like reversing in the pain funnel and having a consultative mindset and driving to how do you bring and level up the knowledge and information that you have so you can see something that they don't see and bring it to their attention.
Yeah, no, I agree. We started doing what we call book of business reviews with our distribution. Well, we're going to start doing them. So we've worked with our analytics department, and I also, to be a strategic business partner, I also want to see historically what you've done with us, right? Uh, because I think it tells the story, right? So we can look at 1 year. But I would rather look at 3 years, right? I would rather look at 3 years because now I've got more data. And now I can say, okay, so what kind of story is that 3 years worth of data is telling me? Have sales gone up with you? Have sales gone down with you? What did that look like through COVID? Are you keeping clients with us? Are you burning and churning them with us, turning them over quickly? So I really find value in how have we historically done business together? And that's getting to that strategic business partner conversation, right? So how have we historically done business together? And how do we want to do business together moving forward? And what plan can we put in place together that's mutually beneficial for both of us?
Yeah.
So I see it as leaving the friend zone. I already know we can golf together. I already know that you can trust me and I can trust you. We've developed some level of trust. I have delivered value. You've seen value in our products and our services because I'm continually reminding you of that value compared to our competitors. I'm being consultative, understanding your pain points. And now I want to get to that strategic business partner discussion with you on on a biannual basis or a quarterly basis. This is what we've done in the last quarter. This is what I'd like to either to see as here's my pipeline. What does this look like? So getting to that strategic business partner conversation.
And in those, one thing, and so you just laid it all out right there, by the way, getting out of the friend zone, reminding people of things, moving from data to wisdom and to insight, and doing that, in quarterly reviews. All of those are things that bring additional value to the client. Again, whether they're quarterly or semi-annual, however it is. One thing is a dangerous thing in those meetings is that they end up defaulting back to tactics. They default back to this sort of tactical conversation. And I think the best people that bring the most value keep that conversation strategic.
Mhm.
They keep that quarterly review not as a, you know, not as a tactical thing, but as a very strategic conversation about where are we going, where have we been, how are we going to go there together, and how do we help you get to your goals faster, better.
Mhm.
And that's a great list. That's a great list. By the way, one of the things, I mean, you just did it right there to me. I'm just seeing it. Uh, we have what we know as the Rhonda rule, trademarked. And so I've got to share this with everybody because this is a great way to add value. And this is something that I have witnessed in you since the very first time that we had a conversation. And that was at the end of every meeting, you summarize who's going to do what and what we covered. And you do it so seamlessly. You did it right there. Uh, right there. It was perfectly done. But that way, at the end of every meeting, no one is unclear about who's doing what. And I know that if I leave 10 meetings, if I don't do it, the chances of someone else doing it is not high, but you
Mhm.
do it every time. Therefore, I have called it the Rhonda rule. And I've shared that rule with others because you are so freaking good at summarizing and recapping, which is a great skill that brings value to other people. So thank you for sharing that right there.
Yeah, no, you bet. Yeah, I giggle that you call it the Rhonda roll. My staff just calls it pain in the ass, but yeah, yeah. So no, I
I
think
love it. I love it. I
yeah.
wish more people would do it. I train it and coach it thanks to you.
Oh, thanks.
So thank you for putting that into my life because I try to live it. I'm not as good as you, but I'm better than I was before I met you for sure.
Mark, one of the things, as long as we're giving each other kudos, one of the things that you brought into my life that I constantly remember and do, and you're best in class in this, and I've watched you do it, is that you are masterful at of helping someone in the moment coaching.
Mm.
But this is the phrase. The phrase is the first time you do something, you always suck, right? So I have watched you, and I remember that phrase. What I've watched you do is you'll ask when you're coaching, even group coaching, you'll ask a rep, well, how would that sound? What would that sound like if you would say that out loud, right? And they would give it a go. And then you would you all you do is say, "Okay, well, how could you smooth that out?" Or, "How could you make that a little better?" Or, "That sounded a little accusatory. Can you clean that up a little bit?" Right? And then by the 4th time, they sound like they should be, like, selling, I don't know, something really high end and, amazing, right? So I one of those that concept of the prep, I think, is something where I have really focused in that if you need to be really good in that moment, don't make it the first time that
Yeah.
you've done it. And
Never
that's
practice in front of the prospect, Sandler rule.
Thank you. Yes, yes, I knew there was a more succinct way of saying that. So, yeah, so that's really stuck with me, and, even with my, as I have some trainers on my staff, don't make the first time you deliver this, the first time you deliver it,
Yeah.
right? So, and we've been using that with our sales folks too is, yeah, don't practice in front of the client. Yeah.
Yeah, when people role play, as an example, they'll give somebody one shot to describe whatever it is or to go through something, and it's never as good. It's you swinging a golf ball at the driving range. The first time you try something new, it's not going to be pretty. Okay. So we got to give people 2 and 3 chances to do it over again. And usually what ends up happening in those situations is, well, that was good. Okay. Yeah. Here you can make these improvements. Next person, you know, and they don't get a chance to build their confidence by having a chance to go through it a second or third time and make it better.
Uh-huh.
And I live for those moments. I love them. And thank you for highlighting that on my side. I appreciate it so much, Rhonda.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely it entered into my life and stuck. So,
That's
and
good.
I'm better for
It's
it.
good,
So,
and I'm better in many ways, many ways, because of the great things that you've shared with me. You got a ton of insight and a ton of great strategy. Your story is amazing. I love what you guys are doing in terms of bringing value. No doubt about it. So thank you for taking the time with us. I appreciate it, Rhonda.
it was so much fun. Thank you for asking me. I'm glad I could share, and I hope what we've I hope what we have talked about has helped someone else down a path or got their wheels turning that, they can, rock and roll in their organizations and, start, work with their folks to be best in class. Or if it's a salesperson listening, that they could take something that we've said today and, and just start on their best in class journey. So,
There's a
yeah,
lot of little things for sure, and some of them not so little that they could take away from the messages. I got a page of notes. So,
cool.
Rhonda,
Awesome.
thank you so much. Enjoyed it. Lots of fun, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Yeah, Mark, take care.
Thank you. You too, my friend.
So, hey, I hope you've gotten a ton of value out of this episode. By far, it's our purpose to help people make money and have fun and have a good time. We're here to help improve your life, to help you make it easier to go sell or to manage your sales team, and ultimately to go build your own sales engine. Don't miss an episode. Best way to go do that is to make sure that you jump out to buildingyoursalesengine.com/follow, where you can link up to all of our latest episodes. For more information about this episode, go to buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can download show notes, transcripts, and other information, including handouts and snapshots of this and other episodes. If you'd like to connect with us to talk about how we can help you build your sales engine, and you are either located in the state of Georgia or are referred to us by one of our clients or affiliated by one of our clients, please reach out to us at buildingyoursalesengine.com, where you can click there to book some time with us. We can find out how we can be of help with one another. If you're not in either of those two circumstances, please reach out to sandler.com, where you can find a Sandler office near you. Be well.